Hello and welcome to the Max MPS Radio. My name is Jan Frisse, and today I'm honored again to have AJ Morris on the podcast, who was on the podcast before, back in 2019. And it's quite funny. I was in prep back then, and you were in your off season, and now it's vice versa. You're in your prep. I'm in my off season. So I'm excited to talk about your prep today. And man, thanks for coming on.
Pleasure, dude. It's really kind for you to have me back on. Appreciate it. And yeah, you're right. We did do the podcast back in 2019. We also met at WNBF Worlds, which was nice. Yeah. And I'm sure if this goes up as video, people can put them side by side and compare our faces as we've transitioned through different phases.
You have quite some face transformation in your off-season diet, right?
My face gets so fat in the off-season, and then it's the first thing to sort of change quite drastically in prep. So I think people can tell when I'm dieting just literally by looking at me in the face, rather than I don't have to take any clothing off for people to know.
Like do you get that really bad skeletal face at the end?
Yeah. Like I look like an 8-year-old, 9-year-old child, kind of. It's a weird hybrid of unhealthy young person. It takes years off me, and I kind of like where I'm at right now in terms of the sort of the facial appearance, which is the middle ground. I don't look unhealthy, but actually look healthier than I look in the off season. If people would see me on the street just a normal person, they'd think I was just a normal guy that's healthy and weight trains, and which is nice in the off season, because if you tell people you're a bodybuilder, if I do when I'm peak off season, they're like, you look a bit soft, you look a bit overweight, because I carry a lot of it in my cheeks, but oh well, it makes you strong, which is the main thing. Screw the face.
Obviously, face is not the priority, I guess.
No, it's not. No, I kind of don't mind it either, to be honest. I'm long gone of caring about those things too much.
Yeah, man. Cool. So I would say let's crack on with the first question I have for you. No, actually, before we dive into this, people don't know you. So if you could just quickly introduce yourself, what you're doing, what you're up to.
So I'm primarily a coach. I coach through Team MBM, which is prioritizing in natural bodybuilders, taking them to the stage, taking them through their off seasons. And I've been doing this since 2014. I've been contest prepping athletes since then, and absolutely love it. It's my main passion. Alongside that, obviously compete myself. My last competitive season was 2017, in which I won the UK junior title with the UK FBA, qualified for Worlds, and won the junior WNBF title as an amateur. And since then, I've been in off season. I took 2 years away from the stage, and this year was meant to be a year full of shows and getting back on stage, and still should be that, but definitely a different year. I think my main goal is to try and get my pro card this year with the WNBF, and it's just looking like it's going to be a little harder to do that than maybe I thought, just because of the show selection. It's looking unlikely that we may be able to travel to the States. With the situation in the States at the moment is not looking too great. So we'll see. I mean, Worlds might get pushed back. In the event that they do get pushed back, then I might be able to compete December or January or something like that, and have to do some sort of strategic diet break set up to try and get me there. But my main goal right now is to get on stage in middle of October at the UK finals for the UK DFBA, which is the most competitive and the best natural federation in the UK. And it's affiliated, of course, with the WNBF, which is where my main goals lie. And yeah, I'm sort of literally, as we speak right now, exactly 12 weeks out from that. So I've done a good 20 weeks. Sorry, no, just 18 weeks of prep so far. It seems so long that I've been prepping, because I was initially targeting a show that was literally about 8 or 7 weeks out right now. It would have been the Northern qualifier. So I was already like planning for a show before the finals. That was like 6 weeks before, 5 weeks before. So and obviously that got cancelled because all the qualifiers got cancelled here in the UK, and everything got pushed back to one UK show where anyone is eligible as long as they've got a membership, they can turn up and compete. So yeah, that's the plans at the moment, and yeah, hope that covers the basis.
Yeah, really cool. We will touch on shows quickly after this first question that I have for you. So basically, in a year full of canceled shows and closed gym, could you expand a little bit about your thought process to actually continue your prep and not shift it maybe back to next year or somewhat, and just continue to prep throughout COVID-19?
Sure. So first of all, I thought I could prep, and there was never any situation in which I thought I couldn't. I was either very lucky to have access to a private facility, or when I didn't get access to a private facility, I was able to create a pretty good home gym in my garage, which took me only a month of very in-depth looking on Gumtree and eBay, and, emailing people and bugging people on Facebook for kit, to basically put together what would have been more than enough if this period had lasted a bit longer and I had to stay in there for longer. I would have been fine. I mean, don't get me wrong, when I got back into the gym the first 2 weeks, my physique definitely changed big time. Like the fullness,
yeah.
the fullness and the cellular swelling that came back as a result of effective training was significant. So I'm really glad that I was able to get back in a little sooner than others as well, which was just nice, just because I had access to private setups and living with a friend who owns gyms and things like that. So I've been very, very grateful with my positioning. If I was back in Brighton like I was in 2017, this prep probably wouldn't have been going ahead in reality. I mean, I probably would have made it work in my garage for a bit. I don't know how well that would have worked though, especially if I was still living in my dad's house. The garage is not big enough for stuff like that. So it would have been very, very difficult, but I would have maybe have tried to make a way to make it work. So first of all, it hasn't been too interruptive in terms of my prep itself. The whole aspect of losing shows and not being able to do a qualifier didn't really massively bother me, as long as there was one show that I needed, which was the main UK and international finals. If that was always going ahead, which I was in contact with Lee Kemp, who runs the federation, I was in contact with him frequently asking whether it was going to go ahead and whether it was going to happen. And he always said, yeah, it's going to go ahead. Don't stress about it. Keep cracking on, keep moving forwards. And obviously I know there's going to be some element of bias with Lee in the sense that he'll want competitors to keep going, but he's also a really good friend of mine. And I think that he'll always be honest with me as to the real situation on sort of the perspective. But now we've got in the UK like cinemas and theatres and things like that opening up August 1st. So we've got a really good sign that these things are going to be able to go ahead by the end of the year. So that's positive. That's good news. And I think now we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And of course, our gyms opened yesterday. It was the first day that you could legally go back into the gym. And
really cool.
Yeah. So we've got enough signs now that things should be good for that show later in the year, which is a positive. But don't get me wrong, like there were elements of doubt that creeped into my mind at some points, and I thought, should I wait and just see when I can compete? That's an optimal scenario and that allows me to, have all my eggs in one basket, so to speak, have the best gym set up all the time, have lower stress, but the thing is, nothing's ever going to be perfect. And also next year, and probably the year after that, to be honest, but next year especially, there's a lot of people that do want to step on stage within my roster. And I know that if I choose or elect to compete within that year, and that takes energy and time away from that process a little bit, in the sense that you have to be selfish when you're prepping. You have to put yourself first sometimes, and you have to go and do things or basically take time away from other aspects of your life. But I must admit, already this prep, I think I'm realizing that even if I did have a bigger roster of clients, I think I would actually be fine, because I feel like sometimes in a contest prep, I'm actually more productive than I am in the off season, just because I tend to wake up earlier. I tend to be more cognitively aware of things, and like my mind, especially in the first 6 hours of the day, like I am on it. I can do just work, just bang it out and be very, very sort of fluent with it. Whereas in the off season, I'm a little slower, and especially at the peak off season, the food gets hard and you just start to feel a bit sluggish. I was feeling like that for months, mate. And like as soon as I got above 190 pounds, I just felt like crap pretty much every day. So like the feeling that I have now in terms of just being able to feel pretty nice every day is so much better. So yeah, that's where I'm at the moment, mate, in terms of that decision making process. And I hope that for anyone listening, like, you know, they don't feel like they've failed by not committing to prep if they've chosen to back out, because they haven't. You know, everyone's situation is very different. Mine's very different in the sense that I'm one of a very small elect group of people that have had access to either very good kit in a gym or outside of a gym for the majority of this time period. And I've had the reassurance of, you know, a friend being a promoter. So, you know, there's not many people have that kind of setup, which I totally understand. And a lot of my clients have not gone through the preps this year, and that's totally fine. You know, I've got four clients competing this year. Cool. And you know, to put it into context, I had over 25 people on the stage last year, so it's a little different. Yeah. That was obviously spread across the year. It wasn't one show. There was 25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just imagine having 25 people on one show.
I'd need a PA. Like, I'd need someone to just help me with lots of shit.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, obviously you're privileged in UK. That actually shows will happen. In Germany, the biggest federation in Germany, which is the GmbF, they canceled we only have one big show, which kind of is a little bit maybe equal to the UK DFBA finals.
Okay.
And they canceled it, I think 5 months out or something like that. So, and with that show being canceled, pretty much every smaller show, for example, the WNBF Germany, and also the ANBF in Austria, got canceled as well. And with those 3 shows canceled, you pretty much don't have any chance to compete at all in the natural federation in Germany right now. So I had 7 people for fall season, and we all dropped out at some point. And I mean, 6 of those 7 people decided to continue prep once we kind of have an idea of this whole COVID-19 situation, and that lockdown will probably happen in the next 1 to 2 weeks. I contacted them all and discussed that thoroughly. And we all decided to continue, or 6 out of 7 people decided to continue, but we also knew at some point we have to pull the plug when it's too uncertain. So yeah, I mean, great to hear that you are cracking on, and also those 4 clients of you. So I mean, it will be interested. It will be interesting in terms of the condition the show will be held, and I hope doesn't like restrict you guys too much. But I think, I mean, in the end, I mean, fucking pubs opened in the UK like I don't know, a few weeks ago, and I mean, it will probably be still a pretty decent show. So looking forward to hear from you.
Yeah, it should be good.
So let's I mean, you also touched a little bit on that in your introduction. So my next question actually was, which shows are you planning to do? So we obviously covered that, and we also you also talked a little bit about your goal in mind. Could you expand a little bit about that goal that you have in mind with the WNBF? Because I know you have that goal in mind for quite a few years now. So could you expand a little bit on that thought process and how you're going to accomplish that?
Sure. So I think the first time I ever went to Worlds when in 2017, I just knew that I wanted to be at that level of competitor at some point, and I was willing to do sort of whatever it took. And I think when you look through the years and the ranks, you see people coming up the junior ranks and transitioning into the men's classes. And, a lot of them, if they have done well as a junior, they tend to do well as a men's open. And if they do well as a men's open, they tend to go on to the pro ranks. And, like Andrew Chappelle is one of the good examples of that. He's come through the junior ranks, done well, and then always been up there in the men's open. It took him a few years to get to his pro status, but he eventually did, and then he moved forwards very well into the pro classes, and is now probably one of the top sort of competitors within the his class and his category in the WNBF. And so yeah, for me, like, it's just the goal and the motivation that I have towards that goal is so high, and it's very, very few things that I wouldn't do to get towards that goal. And that means within every sort of meticulous aspect of my nutrition, my training, my sleep, like everything that I can pour into it, I will happily do it. And I've done that since the moment I stepped off stage in 2017. So the improvements that I did make over the 2-year off season were all dedicated towards that goal of trying to be at that standard. And I still don't know whether I'm going to be at that standard or not. Obviously, it's very different looking at a physique on its own versus a physique on stage against other athletes. And I'm not quite sure yet as to whether I am there, but I know that I've done absolutely everything I could have done over the last 2 years to be able to get into the best possible start point or setup point for this prep. So we will soon find out. And like I said, if it takes me another half a decade to get to that goal, then I'll happily wait, but I think realistically, I really want to achieve the goal of getting the WNBF pro status by at least the age of 27. I don't really want to wait any longer than that, because I think if I do have to wait longer than that, I don't think I have the potential, in all honesty. I might have to wait until my early 30s, maybe. I'm not sure, but I think I'll be within shooting distance this year of being definitely comparable to the people that I will be in my class. And then I can just make my own objective opinion as to what I do next, and whether that's competing soon or whether it's competing later. I'll converse with a lot of people on that thought. Because one of the things that actually did go through my head quite recently was the fact that my most progress that I ever made in the off season that I just did was basically from November until March, like the end, when I dropped my volume, I dropped my frequency, and I started training with Cuba and Jimmy. My training just went to an absolutely different level, like another level, because not only was I was training at a more optimal setup for me, but I was also training with an IFBB pro, and pretty much an IFBB pro in the form of Jimmy. Like, he's not yet, but he will be. And when you're chasing down those kind of people, when you're trying to match what they do, you can't not grow as a little, 180-pound natural. You're going, like, something's got to grow by trying to chase these people and trying to emulate what they do. So. And it's so visible on my progress photos as to how well that time period was spent, because I suddenly went from just looking like okay to looking like, oh wow, you're like really fucking growing now, like visible growth. So I don't think personally I'll need as long next time off from competing and from away from the stage. I'll need enough time to recover from the diet 100%. Because the way that this diet has gone as well is proven to me how beneficial those 2 years was, because this diet has been so easy. Like, I haven't touched any cardio. I've just been doing steps, and I've been eating decent food. Like it's not like super high food, like shockingly high food or anything. It's just average calories, but it's nothing like poverty macros. I'm not sub 2,000 calories yet or anything like that. I don't know whether I have to, but if I have to, I have to. It's not a problem. But it's
Yeah,
just been
obviously.
very, very smooth, and everything's made sense, even amongst other things not making sense and getting in the way. I've still been able to make very legitimate progress on the scale and visually every single week. Nothing's confused me about this prep. So I think the time off that I had definitely helped towards that. But at the same time, I don't think I need as long next time to make the kind of improvements that I want to make. Because, and I think a lot of my off season was kind of spent not spinning my wheels, but it could have quite easily been a contest prep, and it wouldn't have got in the way of things too much. If I'd been more strategic, and like, I feel like sometimes when you have a 2 year off season, there's going to be a point at which things get a bit stagnant, and you just need something else. You need, like, whether it's a mini cut or something. I only mini cutted twice in the whole off season. But you sometimes just need like a diet or something just to refire up the jets kind of thing, refuel the tanks. And so my perspective, like, it's kind of like the 2 year off season definitely to pay off, but at the same time I'm thinking I could have had a bit shorter and it would have still done the job, if you get what I mean. But yeah, I've completely gone off on a tangent away from the WNBF question, but hopefully that provides some value to some people when they're thinking about their off seasons. And I think for me, like, one of the main things there is try and train with people that they don't have to be ahead of you. They just have to be a very good accountability tool, willing to push you, willing to know where or to try and encourage you to find your absolute limit. And those people will be really, really pivotal for your progress, because they definitely have been for mine, and that's coming from someone who already thought that he was training pretty hard, and pushing himself quite a lot. So, and being smart with his training, but there's always more you can do when you have a second eye or a third eye or whatever.
Yeah, really cool to hear, and also somewhat really inspiring to actually hearing you talk about it, and you going through this whole period, basically in the current times. And what would be, I mean, if you have your WNBF pro card, what would be the goal afterwards? Will be just to compete in the top pro ranks and get some good results there, or is there anything else?
Yeah. So I believe the way that they're setting up Worlds this year, if it actually does go ahead, is that they're having the amateur contest on the Saturday and the pro Worlds on the Sunday.
Which would be good.
If I got, yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's still a 2 day event. It's just actually over 2 days.
Yeah.
So if that actually does happen, it goes ahead, and I do get, if I don't get the pro card in the UK, then obviously if I'm in a position where I'm good enough to win it on the WNBF Worlds, then I would compete just straight away on the Sunday and just see where I was at. I'd just go straight in and just see where I'm at. And then as a result of that, then I'd be able to diagnose how long I needed to make the improvements. And I'd just speak to the people that I trust. I'd speak to Ben, I'd speak to Lee, I'd speak to Cuba. And I'd say, look, like, what do you think? Do you think I can take, so let's say Worlds go ahead in November. Let's say I took 6 months off and tried to compete. Well, I probably could take about 7 months off, really, maybe 6 or 7. It depends how heavy I got. But still, a 6 month off season with, let's face it, that would be like 4 months of really growing, because there's 2 months probably at least recovering from the prep.
Yeah.
But if I did that in a smart way, in a better way than I did in 2017, i.e. actually allowing my body to rest and not just pummeling it with training, then I think I could grow a decent amount within that period, especially being very, in a sense, like, as much as we aren't in a good position to grow hormonally, we're in a good position to grow from like a body composition perspective. And if I stayed in a relatively good spot, I'd be able to grow pretty well. Then, you know, I could look at doing, you know, again, the back end of 2021 as a pro, either at Worlds or some, you know, full shows in the States or whatever, if I felt like I was ready. But if not, then the goal would definitely just be wait until I am ready to actually place like highly in a pro show, in my weight category, which most likely would always be the lightweight class. So at the pro level, which is normally around, like there or thereabouts, under 160 to 165. It depends. They change them quite often, but it's usually around that ballpark figure that you have to be under. And I think I'll always be under that. I'm about 5 pounds off it now, and I think I've got another 10 to 12 to go. So I think for the next 2-3 years, I'll definitely be under 165 pounds. That's for sure. So that's really the goal, mate. And then long term, after that, I'd be lying if I said the big long term goal is to win pro worlds in my weight category and, you know, look comparable in the overall with whoever's there. As long as Babacar just stops competing, then we're all good. But I don't think I'll ever be comparable to that. But yeah, well, we'll see, mate. But you know, that's like a huge long-term goal. But it's in my head. It's in my head. It's just a long way off. And I'm pretty. I think I'm pretty decent at being having okay self-awareness. I don't beat myself up or over critique myself, and I don't say that I can't achieve things, but equally I don't say that I am going to achieve things. I just say what I want, and I'm not telling anyone I will get a pro card this year. I'm just saying that that's what I want, and I think there's a big difference between saying I will and I want. And I don't get me wrong, Jan. Like in my head, every day I'm saying I will, but I just don't say it to other people a lot of the time because I feel like, especially in bodybuilding, where it's so like hard to be objective and it is a subjective sport, you can't say I will really with confidence because you don't know who you're competing against.
Yeah.
Like when you see Conor McGregor say, I will be the best, he knows who he's got to beat. He knows who he's got to knock down. I don't know who I've got to knock down right now. There could be an absolute freak of nature that I've got to knock down. And let's be real, if I come across a freak of nature that works hard, you know, it's going to be very, very difficult to sort of, you know, take the crown there. But if I come across people that have, you know, got standard genetics, nothing like off the charts, and they work hard, then I'm pretty confident I can do a good job. And I think my previous results dictate that as well, that my hard work will show on stage, and the way this prep is going so far as well shows that I can be confident in what I'm going to bring, because as long as I manage to get this fat arse and hamstrings lean, then I think that the look will be pretty decent.
Yeah, I think so too, man. Really, really interesting, and how you will look at the end. Just to clarify, for the UK DFBA, do you have to win your class or the overall to get the pro card?
It depends, because it's their 10-year anniversary, so they are potentially going to be offering more pro cards. They also have always had, like, the WNBF will have always said you can offer the pro cards to who you think deserves it. But in the UK, we're very, very picky. If someone's not ready for the pro card, they don't get it. But last year, do you remember, like, Andrew got pro status, and so did Ben Lloyd. So two people got pro cards at the finals, and that was just because they were deemed ready for pro status. So, and then another year, I think it was my year, 2017, the lightweight won a pro card, and the overall winner won a pro card. So that was Dean Garrett, and who won the pro card? Was it Sam Watt? Might have been Sam Watt that year. Yeah, I think it was Sam Watt that year. So yeah, things like that. No, it wasn't Sam Watt. It was Daniel Mutcher. Daniel Mutcher won the pro card that year. So yeah, my bodybuilding terminology is a bit rusty. I haven't been to enough shows recently.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The GmbF actually also did that to their shows. So back in, I don't know when they started. I think it was probably in spring last year, I think so, that they handling out pro cards, like defect pro cards for class winners as well. And before that, it was just the overall. And with the caliber of athletes in Germany is crazy. I think it's somewhat comparable to the UK.
Yes.
Especially since you only have that one big show. So pretty much everybody will show up there, and you have like tons of athletes. I mean, we have fucking weight classes of 2.5 kgs. So you have lightweight, super lightweight, middleweight, super middle, and so on and so forth. And back in the days, you had to get an overall in that big fucking contest, and that was insanely hard. Like very few pros in Germany.
Yeah. I think the best of the best is a nice thing to have, but it really dilutes the pro level a little bit, because there's just not enough pros in the circuit. Because I think, if we're producing one pro a year from the UK and Germany,
that's
how many are we going to have a pro class, and how many people could make up a pro class that are pretty close to being pro worthy, that can be sort of the 5th, 6th, 7th places. I know that's like sucks a little bit, but you've got to create a show to have bodybuilding. So you can't just have 4 people turn up, and imagine if the 2 pros you have from the UK are not prepping this year, so you have no UKs and you have no Germany for some reason. Like, it just kind of dilutes the whole contest. But I think equally in America they offer them too much. I think they're giving out too much. Like, there's people that shouldn't have them, to be honest, and that show up at Worlds and you're like, you should be in the amateur classes, and that sounds horrible, but they should. They're an amateur bodybuilder at that level, and it can't, that doesn't dilute the pro class. It brings it down, because then the audience that this is their first time at a bodybuilding show and the pro class comes out and they just look the same or worse than the lightweight class that you've just seen in the amateurs, you're like, well, I mean, don't get me wrong, that doesn't happen in the Worlds, but at other pro classes, it potentially has happened where a pro class looks worse than the amateurs, and that's the problem. So we just need more pros, really.
Yeah, I think it's probably a good middle ground. So not handling out too much pro cards, but also probably not only one a year. And I remember the Jordan Cup, like pro classes, they were insane. I was backstage, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, just mutants all around you. And that was just insanely crazy to see those guys. And also how they actually compete in backstage, how chilled they actually are. And like, it's just different. It was that very different from the amateur classes. So Jordan Cup was crazy, man.
Yeah, it's a great show. It's very it's prestigious in history, isn't it, that show? So
yeah.
A lot of people do it. Yeah, for sure.
Just a quick question, because I know you competed in the BNBF in 2017. Is there any reasons why you don't compete in the BNBF anymore, or do you plan to?
So I don't plan on competing in the BNBF, and that's purely just because my goals don't exist within that federation. So for me, it's not a waste of time. It's just, it means that my energy is pulled elsewhere. And when I've got such a great focus on being a professional within the WNBF, I want all my eggs to go in that basket. So it is absolutely nothing against the BNBF at all. Like, they're a great federation, and I've loved competing with them, and I have clients compete with them all the time. So it's not going to change my stance on putting people in for their shows or anything like that. You know, like I had the same amount of people that competed at the BNBF as competed at the UKFBA last year. And that will always be the case. You know, that's not going to change. But for me personally, and for any of my clients, like for example, Grace, my figure client, like she's so motivated by the whole WNBF goal that she wants to just next time focus on the UKFBA and trying to get her WNBF pro card and figure. So, and if we hadn't have done the BNBF for her, I think she would have been fresher for all of the other shows. So you remember the show weekends and the travel and the stress and the stage experiences is all pulling away at some point from your look long term, because let's face it, me sitting in my office chair on a Sunday doing check-ins and doing my steps is a lot less stressful than well, it depends on the day, but it's a lot less stressful than competing most of the time. And it's also a lot less tiring. So the whole aspect of doing a show is something that you have to look at in terms of your fuel tank as a competitor. And I want my fuel tank to be absolutely fucking brimmed for the UKFBA, so I'm at my absolute best. I want to be on it for that show. So I can't afford anything else to be pulling away from that, really. So yeah, that's my stance there, mate.
Makes absolute sense. And also since you competed quite a few times now, you have experience. It's not like you would benefit from doing more shows just to gain more experience for future seasons, you know?
Yeah.
Like I did 4 shows back to back, like 4 peak weeks back to back, and that was just too much, like for real. Insane. And then also Worlds, like two weeks later, my physique just got really, really bad. Like at Worlds, I was probably 10-15% off or something like that.
Yeah, not ideal. Yeah,
I mean, it was still a cool experience, man. What?
You just look tired by the end, man.
Yeah.
And that's normal, you know. It's normal when you push hard and you have a long prep. You're going to look tired. You're going to look slightly worse than you looked at the start. It's just going to happen. It's just the case with natural bodybuilding.
I mean, at that point, it was a 10 months prep, I think. And I pretty much looked the best probably 3 weeks out from my first show. So that was probably my peak. Those are the check-in photos that I look back to the most proud, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, I gained a ton of experience, and I know better for next time now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we all do, mate. You know, we all make mistakes, and we'll learn from the sort of the processes that happen during a prep. And you know, you'll always find in especially your first couple of preps where your best look is, and sometimes that's a little further away from where you actually ended up getting to ultimately. So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can do shows back to back, but you also have to plan which shows you are going to really peak and which shows you are going to train through, maybe.
Yes.
And I peaked pretty much from the first on, so I had 4 peak weeks back to back.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That was a lot of pump training.
Yeah, and the pump training.
Yeah.
Changes the look a little bit after a while. Funnily enough, I don't really change my training in the last week.
Even for the final shows, for the final show.
Yeah, I don't really change it, honestly. The only thing I do is I just make sure my leg training is far away from the day.
Yeah, makes sense.
And like the last workout might be a pump one if I need it, but I just keep things the same, and I just do a low volume week. So the low volume just dissipates the fatigue if I have any. But I find like dropping the intensity and just doing the pump workouts just makes you look different in a not a good way. I feel like the inflammation and like the cell volume that you get from hard training, yes, there's some fatigue element there, but honestly, mate, if you're dug out lean, doing hard sets shouldn't make you soft or watery. I think backing off a little bit, like the last couple of days, absolutely, 100%, but backing off for like a whole week, I don't personally do that, and I don't actually do it with any of my clients really, unless they're very, very reactive to a change in training stimulus, and I'll learn that from their deloads. But for me, I actually look worse when I do the pump or the sort of the softer approach to the final week. And Cuba's the same, so we're going to train just as normal and make sure that the leg training's far away, and that the volume comes down during the final week, but the intensity will stay for the whole.
Yeah, makes sense.
Time.
Makes sense. Yeah, we pretty much trained through probably Sunday through. I think Valentin pushed it back from each show a little bit further. So I think the last show I trained till I think Thursday or something like that.
Yeah, nice.
So we basically had like 4 days of training and then another 2 weeks of pump workouts. Not 2 weeks, obviously 2 days. Yeah. Cool. So let's discuss your physique a little bit in terms of your progress in the last, pretty much 3 years to that point. My question would be, how does your physique differ to 2017 and how did weaker body parts and poses came up?
Sure. So I think the main emphasis that I had overall in the last few years has just been to grow everywhere. So I didn't really focus too heavily on specific body parts, apart from just a little bit of focus on my arms, really, just because I wanted bigger arms anyway. My arms haven't ever been bad, like super terrible. They've just not been as big as I want them. The main pose that I didn't like the way that they looked in was front double bicep. Every other pose I'm fine with how the arms look. Like I'm fine with the side tricep, side chest, rear double, and front poses, but just in the front double bicep itself, I just didn't have enough pop, and I wanted a bit more. So the arms just got separated into an arm day at the end of the off season, which I don't do currently just because of recovery. I really trying to bias recovery as a whole towards the big sessions. And then right now I'm actually deloading, but deloading with a de-volume approach as opposed to just the rest days at this time. Just seeing how it goes essentially and trying to respond based on that, because we felt like just taking the 4 days off during the prep was a little psychologically like even harder, and also we find that it takes about 4 or 5 days to get over the initial fatigue that we have from getting back into what will be quite a novel stimulus after no training for 4 days. And we found that even in the off season. So in the prep, it's actually even harder to get back in after 4 days. Just you're kind of like extra sore, even though if we start with lower volume. So we're just doing a lower volume week and it feels good. So I'm not actually doing the arm days at the moment. But regardless, anyway, staying on the top of the question. So body parts that I think have come up, I think everything has come up in some shape or form, whether it's little or large. I think my leg density has come up quite a bit because my legs are a lot leaner this time out than they were last time.
Yeah.
From the front, and to be fair, from the back as well, you just can't see it at the moment. You can see a little bit of glute detail and side tricep and side chest. But like if I feel my hamstrings or if I sit down on a hard chair or something like that, I can feel like the back of my legs are a lot, like they feel like 6 weeks out at last prep, to be honest. So I know it's just a matter of another month or so before I start to see some good hamstring detail and a few little cheeky glute lines coming in from the back, which will be exciting. So I think everything's come up in terms of just muscle density, and as a result of that, condition is coming in a little bit sooner than it did in 2017 when the muscle was less mature.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I think have improved, and how and about doing that, it's very, very simple. I just made sure that across the board I was getting stronger and doing enough total work, but equally not too much to the point where it was pulling away from my ability to actually overload and progress. But yeah, mate. So it's it was a simple process, but at the same time, it was something that allowed me to get to the goal in a pretty efficient manner. I didn't ever overcomplicate things or try and introduce anything sort of crazy or new or try a bro split or whatever. Like it was just very, very simple, very minimal changes to the plan, just ticking my boxes really. That's what's taken me here so far.
Yeah, really cool. And I mean, from my side of view, just seeing you progress over the last few years and how you handle things and stuff like that, and now seeing all that work actually realizing into a much improved physique is super cool. I mean, you posted a side triceps probably a few days, maybe a week or two or something like that. You posted side triceps, and I was like legitimately like looking at that side triceps and being like, damn, that got improved as well. I mean, your side triceps wasn't bad back in the days.
Yeah.
Like side shots from my point of view got way better. I mean, overall you improved. And
Thanks, mate.
I also saw Alberto Nunez asking you if you, because you just touched on that, that you lower body came up a little bit earlier now in terms of conditioning.
Yeah.
And I mean, just like a quick fire question, like, is there any differences in body fat distribution at all in this prep, in terms of comparing that to 2017?
I think it's pretty similar, to be honest. It
Cool.
just so happens I've got more leg muscle, so they're just appearing to come in a little bit quicker than they did last time. But in terms of the way that it has been distributed, no, I think it's about the same. I think my lower body's still quite slow to come in, compared to the upper, because the upper has just come in very, especially from the back, very.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that I even felt, getting lean, like my back on machines and presses and stuff. It's annoying, really, because the back and the upper back creates so much stability for you on presses, and when you get lean there really quick, it's, any chest press and dumbbell press just feels terrible. Like I need to be really above 180 for like shoulder presses with dumbbells and barbells to actually feel strong and good. So, being now into the 160s, all of those things just don't feel that nice anymore. I have to really sort of like pad myself out with hoodies and also just trying to really focus on getting my positioning perfect for the press to be a decent set. Whereas in the off season, you like hop under a bar and unrack it and you feel like you can just press it through the ceiling. I don't feel like that right now, which is a bit of a shame, but you just got to focus on like I'm focusing on the small performance wins, at the moment. So retaining my performance at the moment I'm pressing is definitely a win.
Yeah.
Something that I focus on. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, you often see strong body parts getting leaner earlier. Not in everybody. Sometimes you also see really strong body parts that are like stubbornly not getting lean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting because a few people talked about how body fat distribution changes over time, but it may be just the muscularity differences that also then lead to those body parts getting not maybe leaner, but also like just like visually leaner.
Yeah, I
Earlier.
think that for sure. I think it's just the muscle density and the maturity that's changing. That's the main influence there.
Cool. Now I just want to expand you a little bit on the feedback that you actually receive from people on your progress pictures, because you coach yourself, from what I know. And I would be interested in how did you choose those people and how is this process going forward?
So yeah, I send my progress photos to basically about 3 or 4 people when the changes are significant enough for them to see them. So Cuba, Ben Howard, those are my main, and Jack Thorburn, and those are my main sort of like people that look at my shots and give me their honest opinion. And the reason why I have those people in my corner is because they've seen, well, Jack Thorburn especially have seen, and Ben seen my physique in 2017 a lot, so they know sort of what areas to kind of look for, what problems to look for in terms of areas getting a little bit flat or they know my physique well, and that's why working with a coach, really does help in the long run, because they can see your physique and learn your physique over time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the reason why I sort of send the shots to those guys. And it just offers me, that sort of second eye that realistically I do need, as much as maybe I don't want it, or I feel like I can do it on my own or whatever. Like, I do definitely need someone there to sort of just say, look, like, you're on track, or you're a little bit above pace, or whatever. Like, I need someone to sort of just give me that clarity. And those guys definitely do that for me. So it really is just sort of a bump in the right direction, because otherwise, what I'd have just the lovely support that I get on Instagram as the comments and stuff.
Yeah.
But they're always going to say you look great. And, half the comments yesterday was that I was bloody stage ready, when, it's just, I'm not stage ready at all. It's like good lighting,
Yeah.
very, very good lighting, good pump. My legs are not ready at all. And, a lot of people commenting don't understand the true condition requirements of bodybuilding. So, it's nice. It's nice to know that people think I'm on the right track, but at the same time, they're people that don't necessarily know the insides and outs of bodybuilding itself. So, yeah, just people that are in the know, people who can give me an honest opinion, and I appreciate that a lot. So, yeah.
Makes totally sense. And I mean, honestly, that was pretty much expected from my side. That you pretty much touched on all the points that I have written out here.
Perfect.
So, mate, just for you time being, we have 2 more questions to go. Should we choose one, or should we go through both?
Let's just do both, man. I can give them sort of shorter answers.
The first one is probably the bigger one. Okay. It's what would be the main differences in your current prep to your 2017 prep, in terms of training, nutritional, and lifestyle approaches.
Sure.
So maybe we will just start with training.
Yeah. Okay. So, I can pretty much cover all things, because there's not too many things that are different, to be honest. Obviously, I was living at home my last prep, so my lifestyle is quite different. My work is a lot busier, like a lot busier.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But in 2017, I'd have multiple days in the week where I'd have off from work. I don't even know what a day off is anymore. So I don't really have a lot of time off the gas, but I don't mind that. I wouldn't change that right now. I'm quite happy to sort of work at that schedule. Training wise, so yeah, that has been quite a few changes there. I was training 6 days a week in 2017, and now there's some weeks where I only train 4 times. It depends on the way the split works, but I basically run a push pull off, legs off. So some days a week that means that the frequency is 4. Some days a week that means the frequency is 5 per week. Basically every body part is pretty much hit roughly every 5 days. So I really like that setup from a recovery and performance perspective. I really hate this setup in terms of being in the gym, because I want to be in the gym every day, and I want to be working. I don't want to be like getting blood flow, and like I just like training a lot. So I do struggle with the frequency, must admit. But I find it rewarding in terms of having enough time to do my work and do things like this. Do more podcasts and, create more time for my clients and my team. So it's been rewarding on that aspect. And nutrition wise, very, very similar, apart from the approach that I'm only having like auto-regulated back-to-back high days. And I've only had 1 set of high days so far. Other than that, it's been linear macros. And before, in my 2017 prep, I was having a 1-day refeed every week without fail. So even if my rate of loss wasn't perfect, I'd still have the refeed. Looking back, I'm like, I'm not sure why I did that, to be honest, because it was kind of just a waste of time. And the thing is, I will only have the high days if my rate of loss is a bit too quick, or if I feel like the high days are needed in relevance to retaining performance. Those are the only situations in which the high days come in. Outside of that, the high days are just, not needed, and I can just be fine on linear calories. So that's my my setup with nutrition.
Do you tend to drop or gain weight when you refeed?
Usually I will go up.
Okay, yeah,
Like
I assume that.
pounds from the glycogen,
Okay.
and then I'll drop it off. So, and that's always the goal really with me in refeeds. I like to gain weight. I don't want to really just use it as a day to like instigate a drop or anything like that. But usually the drop will come for me after the refeed. So I'll come up and then I'll come quite aggressively down as I go back to normal
Same.
calories. So I'm probably due another couple of those soon. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Really, that's the crux of it, dude. That's the way that the prep's sort of been set up, and changes that have been there.
So I mean, from what I have noted down, I mean, obviously, I didn't live your life, so you probably know better. But I thought it was obviously like Ultraflex training and Ultraflex this prep.
Oh yeah,
In regards
big
to
big change.
and
That's been happening for so long that it feels like the norm. But yeah, obviously,
man.
when I was living in Brighton, I was training at a very different gym, very different environment, Ultraflex, and having training partners that are chasing the same goals as you and that are very, very dedicated, and we just talk about bodybuilding all the time is insane.
Yeah,
it's
environment is everything. It's everything, man.
yeah, it makes such a difference. Like my life is so much better up here than it was down there. So my general quality of life and my excitement for each day kind of thing. So I'm very, very grateful for that. So, but then again, like when I was training in the gyms in Brighton, like that Fitz gym I was training in, that was pretty much the only one in there. It was like having my own garage gym at the time that I trained, because it was only ever busy in the evenings, that gym. And it just goes to show that you can still achieve a lot in an environment where it's only you. So you don't need anything illustrious or special to achieve big things. But don't get me wrong, I think the setup that I've got now, I'm so grateful for, and I always will be for a long, long time. So I don't see myself going anywhere else for a while.
And I mean, besides training in Ultraflex, you also trained in your garage.
Yeah, that's very different. Yeah, for sure. So, but like I said earlier in the answer to the sort of the training situation and the garage setup, my mindset never changes. So when I'm training, and the training session itself, the focus, the accuracy, the intensity, all of those things, like regardless of where I am, I'll still put in absolutely everything. So even in the garage, I was risking like getting absolutely wrecked by a safety bar in a horrible flimsy rack just to get an extra rep. It's like, it's pure stupidity really, but those sessions were really memorable actually. And I went in there yesterday just to grab one of my mate's belts who came around to train when we were in the garage, and I was like, fucking hell, like this was a cool little setup. So, but it's interesting. It was a weird period of time, but a memorable one nevertheless.
Yeah, also one that you can really get something out in terms of learning for future experiences. Yeah, and I mean that video of you trying to do that leg extension killed me, like for real. Like I laughed my fucking ass off. Like I felt that too hard. The weight fell off, and you just being like super disappointed about it, and being like, "Fuck that!" I was just getting ready.
Fucking hell.
And you also do less steps, right? So I remember in year 2017 you had tons of expenditure, right?
I didn't ever sit down in 2017. Like something I've learned is that I need to sit down more. Like my main part of my day is training. Like that's the main part of my day. So everything else revolves around training. So this prep is just focused around absolutely giving that whole session my absolute all, even if it takes 2.5 hours, 3 hours to do the session. I'm just there for that moment, and that's it. And then outside of that, I'm obviously just doing my work, but I'm staying stress free. I'm sitting down. I'm only going for walks when I need to, and I'm not overexpending steps, and I'm doing everything I can to sort of make every session as good as it possibly can be. So yeah, expenditure is definitely different to last time.
I assume your intake is lower than this time also, right?
What food intake?
Yeah, yeah.
It's about the same, to be honest.
Crazy.
I think the training sessions are just burning more calories, to be honest, mate. Like wasn't training for this long really, and I wasn't training this level of intensity. So like the whole epoch thing is probably playing a role, but it's probably a small amount difference. But and obviously having a little bit more muscle makes a little bit of a difference. Being a little bit heavier makes a little bit of a difference. So they all add up. They're all like marginal. But yeah, I think it's about similar calorie wise to last time at this point.
And I mean, you still get your at least 10K steps in. I saw also 12K on a non-training day.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, it's interesting that you actually have a higher step count on the off day, because I usually tended to get more steps in my training sessions as well, walking around and stuff like that. Yeah. Maybe besides a lower session where you just after a set of squats, you just sat down for 5 minutes and try not to die.
I try and sit when I train, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
I just want to walk. I want to move. So it's quite easy for me to do too many. So I try and sit, and I try and take training with Cuba and Jimmy, who are like, they're very of the same mindset as well. So like the training session is, you got to preserve every bit of energy for the sets. And I think a lot of the time, us naturals just try and do too much and walk around and like, just pointless. Like, 'cause we're a lot of the time with a natural athlete, we just accept that we're going to feel a bit small. So we don't really get conscious about losing muscle or losing size because we're so focused on getting shredded. Whereas I think in the assisted realm, they've got so much muscle to play with that they really notice when it starts to fade a bit. I mean, some naturals might be different, but I've always been fine with getting smaller. I don't mind getting smaller as long as I'm getting shredded. But the mindset I have now is like, I want to be big. I want to still stay big. I don't want to end up scrawny or flat, stringy, or I don't want to look like a natural bodybuilder. Really, like I want to look like a really, really good natural bodybuilder, not like a amateur, natural bodybuilder that I once was. In my head, like, I don't want to look that way again. I want to look like a proper bodybuilder on stage, and that means having a good amount of muscle. So I've got to hold on to it, and that's why the training session really, really matters.
Yeah, I mean, probably also a difference when you train with people rather than training alone.
Too right.
I mean, just imagine, like, you just did your set, and now your training partner's doing your set, and you just walk away and get steps.
Stay still. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any changes in terms of priority on peri-workout nutrition? Because I remember you talked about eating oats post-workout, and that was a really bad thing for you. And I don't know if you actually changed it in your last prep or after prep.
It was changed during my last prep. So I think it was at the start of 2017 that I was having like oats post-workout, and I didn't really have the understanding. I didn't really have the knowledge at that point of peri-workout nutrition as much as I do now. So yeah, that was changed, and now like primarily my carbohydrates are shifted around training, and I mean I still have a decent amount of carbohydrates in other meals, but I don't have carbs before bed in my last meal at the moment. I have carbs in basically meal 2, meal 3, intra and post, and that's it. And then outside of that, they're either like fruit-based meals or very low carbohydrates. I have a lot of fruit at the moment though, because I find it very satiating, and I just find it like a good addition to a meal that, like rather than, I don't like really savory meals too much. I prefer sweeter meals, so like yogurt and fruit and things like that is much more like enjoyable for me than eating beef and broccoli. Like I just not really bothered by those meals.
Does that tend to change the longer you diet, or is it the same in the off season as well?
I don't know. Maybe it does. I'll let you know in 3 months' time. But I think right now, especially with it being summer and stuff, I prefer colder meals than I do hotter meals. Just that's my palate at the moment.
Yeah,
but it might change. I remember I've gone through phases of really liking eating like beef and broccoli and stuff in the morning, and that doesn't even cross my mind at the moment. Like, no thanks. So
Yeah, super interesting. I got so much of it often. Like I was just eating sweet meals at the end, basically. Like maybe my evening meal was like beef, and obviously you got to get your veggies in, and I don't eat any sweet veggies or whatever. But also the fruit thing I can really relate to. Like I had a lot of fruit in my prep, and I also ate a lot of fruit in my post prep. Season. I remember I had days where I ate 4 to 5 apples or something like that.
Fucking hell. Yeah, I haven't reached that point yet, but I definitely enjoy my fruit for sure.
I mean, I wasn't eating 4 to 5 apples in my prep, but like after prep, I was like, okay, now I can eat more than 1 apple. So yeah, that was insane, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Coming to the last question, AJ, it is basically, since you touched on how much more work you have to do nowadays versus 2017, like how does your work organization and structure differs to 2017? And yeah, that's basically it.
Sure. So I just wake up earlier, to be honest, mate. I was waking up quite a bit later in 2017 for the most part of my prep, up until like the later stages where I was waking up very early. So I just wake up earlier. I like to get 90% of my work done before I train. I just make sure my clients check in early, and if they don't, then they get their feedback the next day. It's as simple as that. I don't like doing check-ins like super late at night, and I prefer waking up at 5:30 in the morning and starting cracking on with check-ins then, than staying up until 11, 12 o'clock at night doing check-ins. I'm much more productive. My feedback's better and my workflow is better. So I tend to like doing that, and I'm just more efficient with everything that I do because I've just done it for longer. So yeah, I think it just took me some time to be able to get to where I want to be efficiency wise with work. And once I was able to nail that, it was really just a simple case of doing it on a daily basis. So yeah, that's that really, man.
Cool. So you kind of adapted to that workload, right?
Yeah, over time. Yeah. I mean, it was a gradual flow of increasing clients, and when you get to a point, when you're getting close to a point where you're like, oh, right now I can't handle any more than this. And then in the future, time frees up, or your efficiency whilst maintaining quality goes up, and then you just take on a couple more and you see how that feels. And yeah, it's just a matter of time really that influenced that.
Yeah, really cool. And I think being super busy in a prep is, to a point at least, super productive and super helpful for the prep itself.
Yeah, absolutely agreed.
Like, did you have, I mean, maybe not in your 2017 prep, I don't know your client roster back then, but I had some days in my prep where I got really anxious when I looked at the day of work I had, and also like a 3 to 4 hour training session or something, all like post contest, the weekend after, the day after the weekend, when you actually maybe didn't work on the show day itself. I looked at like my things to do on a Monday or Sunday, and I was like, fuck this. Like, what the fuck is this? And I had some crazy days. Like,
yeah, I know there's going to be some crazy days in store for me, but to be honest, like for me now, I've gotten so used to the crazy days that they're just normal. So
I assume.
Yeah, I just sort of I don't really get nervous about it anymore, because it's just what I do, and I've sort of accepted that. So I'd like to make some, like, in the future. I don't think I'm going to be doing this level of intake forever. Like, when I'm in my late 20s or early 30s or something like that, and there's maybe more going on in my life or something like that, when I have more obligations and things to do, then perhaps I will ease off the workload a little bit. I think that would be the most sensible thing to do as obligations climb. So, but yeah, for now, I'm happy with my setup for sure.
Cool. So AJ, that was pretty much it.
Perfect.
do you want to, or I will give you the opportunity to plug everything you have. I know it's quite something.
Yeah, sure. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, follow me at AJ_Morris_. And my podcast is Team MBM podcast on Spotify and on YouTube. And I have a member site as well, madebyMorrisCoaching.com, which you can check out the forum and the videos on there. Primarily focused around educational content at the moment, with the online coaching series. If you're wanting to be an online coach and you want to find out more about how to get there and how to build your business and your brand, then check that out. You'll enjoy that most likely. And do check out my sponsors as well, Trained by JP, for supplements and for the clothing. And also check out the member site. I log on there daily. So if you've got any in-depth questions you want to ask me on my prep, follow my prep or anything like that, go to trainedbyjp.com and sign up. And obviously check out all the products. And that's it. Other than that, man, thanks very much for having me. And I'll look forward to maybe another one soon.
Yeah, man. We'll be happy to do that. And I will link everything in the description.
Appreciate it. Cool, dude. Cool.
Have a great day, man.
You too, mate.